G&T show is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. Live long and prosper, bitches.
Are friends with benefits?
Speaking of having a good time, Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Dayton broke the G&T show. This is now the David Mack
Appreciation Hour. You assholes.
What is it about this guy that people love him so much?
With his purple velvet cape and his crown. I thought it was a little much when he had us carry him in the studio on a throne. I am awesome! Look what I have done! Look what I have brought upon the world!
There is an urge to go, nya.
I heard rumors that you might be working on something else, but we won't prod much. I was going to say
I'm going to pry a little.
Dare you! How dare you ask me to change it? Do you not understand the majesty of my genius? And the guy sitting next to me looked at me like he was, like I'd cramped in his hat.
Yeah, it's the professionalism that sells the show. That's right.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good twilight. How are you? Welcome to a new G&T Supplemental log. Here I am, Gettysburg 7. There she is to my left, your right. Tonight she's wearing her little cocktail waitress mini-maid outfit a la Esri Dax and bada bing, bada boom. It's Terry Lynn.
Good
bada bing,
evening.
Bada
Bing, bada bang.
Bada bing, bada bang. I no offense to you, but I do think that and Nicole DeBoer were better. But that's because you know of my
Well,
undying...
she's all petite and shit.
Yeah, she is. So you know of my undying devotion to her. And there he is to my right, your left. He's, I don't understand what he's wearing. Is that a wizard hat, or is that, what is it? Ceridium.
Kapla! Today I am the mighty warlord.
Not warlock?
That's right, man.
Oh, okay.
That's why he skipped over his own words.
Warlord, warlock.
Oh,
you know
boy.
those Klingons. It's all the same.
It's all the same. And there he is, sitting across from us, looking befuddled, as all our guests do. And by the way...
He's going to bippity-boppity-boo us.
Exactly. This episode brought to us by Izzy Slapowicz University's Hebrew Ha-Ha Hour. It's author John Jackson Miller.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Welcome.
How are you?
Welcome.
We are so...
Notice, sir, your age is 47. Interesting, Terry. 47.
I'm lowering that little eyelid, showing everybody that I understand that 47 is a magic number.
Wink. No. My first question for you, sir, is when are you ever going to get the chance to follow your dream and write a Star Wars novel?
Oh, my God.
Oh, well, I just don't know. It depends on how that time machine is going, because I think I'm, but if I run things in reverse, yeah, I would get that next. I've sort of been, I've got to sort of tell my fandom story, 3 or 4 times in the promotion of this book, and it's kind of funny how my Star Wars and Star Trek fandom have intertwined over the years, and one has come to the fore, one period, and then another and another. I mean, obviously, I think I was into Star Trek before Star Wars was even a thing, because of course we had Star Trek. The TV series was in reruns, and we also had the NBC had its cartoon. I think it was on NBC, so there was that. And then, of course, Star Wars came out, and I was into that for several years. And then, of course, Star Wars goes away after Return of the Jedi at almost about the same time that, we got cable TV and we got to see Star Trek II being rerun every 15 minutes on HBO and Cinemax. And so, I was able to hop back into that, and that was when I got, started getting a lot of the early pocket books, and, I got the FASA role-playing game. I guess it was FASA that did it.
Yeah.
It's getting so many years have now passed since these things. The West End board game I still play with my kids. The Star Trek board game. That was.
You know what's amazing that you
yeah.
said? How many authors we've had, Star Trek authors, that the FASA role-playing game still ranks high in their memories of things.
Yeah, very much so.
And I don't even think I ever played it. That was in the phase where, in high school, everything that was cool in junior high, and that included comics and Star Wars and Dungeons and Dragons and everything. As soon as I got to high school, it was like, the kiss of death socially. Nobody's into any of that stuff anymore. Yeah. And it's kind of, that really is when I think, got the training to be the person that I am now, because that was because I had to connect with people outside my school. That was when I got into fandom. That's when I started, collecting, that's when I started subscribing to Comics Buyer's Guide and doing my own fanzine and, networking with other people around the country and doing things. And of course, later on, I ended up going to work for Comics Buyer's Guide for almost 10 years, which sort of leads me to how I got the gig that I've got now. But yeah, I guess as I was saying, I've kind of gone back and forth between Star Wars and Star Trek. It was nice to have Next Generation, when I was in college, to be able to get in on the ground floor of something for Star Trek and see it from the start. But professionally, I think I may have mentioned on my website, I pitched a Star Trek story before I even pitched a Star Wars one. So
yeah, we heard that. Now you actually pitched a story for the anthology contests for Strange New Worlds.
Yeah,
it was a Scotty story, and it was very funny, and I would love to get it somewhere someday. The problem is, I understand. I think Dean wrote on the Dean Wesley Smith wrote on the story that it was a good story, but they didn't accept it. It broke continuity pretty badly, and I didn't realize at the time that the stuff that was in Strange New Worlds was taken more or less seriously. You look on Memory Beta now, and it still says that Berlinghoff Rasmussen from Star Trek: The Next Generation is dead because of a story that I think appeared in Strange New Worlds 2. Wow. And it was just a little 2-3 page story even. But that's I think that may have been the problem with that. Once I was doing Star Wars comics, I proposed a Star Trek SCE story, Corps of Engineers.
I heard about this too. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. And I got that actually approved by Keith DeCandido, who's editing the line, and then the whole series was canceled, and so I ended up doing my first prose work for Star Wars as well, as opposed to Star Trek. Kind of the irony here is the idea that I had for this Starfleet Corps of Engineers story. I ended up recycling part of the concept for that into one of the Star Wars ebooks that I did for the Lost Tribe of the Sith. So it's I'm sort of the environmental writer. I don't waste anything if I can help it.
Well, that's really cool. Now, what's the official number of Star Wars books that you've written to date? Is it over 80?
In terms of actual Star Wars products that I have had my name on, it's I think it's right around 100, and that's because we're including comic books, and obviously, right. Knights of the Old Republic was the series that I wrote for 4 or 5 years. There's 56 issues of that, but then I also did stuff for the role playing game, and then I did all these short stories, and then the novels that I did. Knight Errant was the first novel that I wrote. I wrote both the novel and the comic series, and then Lost Tribe of the Sith was a collection of ebooks that we did that everybody wanted to know when's the physical book coming out, and so we did a physical book that had had some additional material to it, and I wrote a graphic novel sequel to that. And then 2013 was my first hardcover. That was Kenobi, which was the Scribe Award winner last year. That's basically the Western novel that I wrote. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi's first month on Tatooine, and then it was right after that book came out that, or actually it was before that book came out that I got the offer to write a Star Trek Titan ebook, and that
Absent Enemies.
Loved Absent Enemies.
Thank you. That was Absent Enemies. That came out in February of last year, and then last year I ended up writing 2 novels back to back, and one was Star Wars: A New Dawn, and that was kind of a momentous thing. I didn't know it when I was writing it, but it turned out to be kind of a big deal.
I was going to say, now, Star Wars: A New Dawn, forgive me if I'm saying, is that a Star Wars Rebels story, or is it
It is the prequel to the Rebels series. However, it's an adult novel that, it's written at a higher age range than probably you would expect for something that's on Disney XD. But as I was writing that book, I was well into it when I was told that, oh, by the way, this is now
the name.
This is now the beginning of the canon. This is the beginning of continuity officially.
Hot darn.
What they did is all the previous books, and these go back forever.
And let's back up a little bit, because some of our listeners may not understand or may not necessarily be readers of both. There are hundreds of Star Wars books, and they come out. And I want to say they cover different periods of time, right? That's why there's like Star Wars, the New Order, and
X-Wing,
the New
Squadron,
Jedi Order,
right, the New Jedi Order, and all that. And they all have their own kind of lines, correct?
That's correct, and everything interrelated. I've actually written some long essays on this. I did a big post when the book came out for StarWars.com, where I talked about the evolution of tie-in fiction in the Star Wars universe, and how it was somewhat different than Star Trek and all the other tie-ins that have been around for a long time, in that there was a good deal of interconnectedness between the books in the very early days, and it was something where it was mostly the authors just communing with each other and trading ideas back and forth, such that it crossed media. It wasn't simply just that the Del Rey novels paid attention to each other. You had Archie Goodwin in the Marvel comics. He was also writing the comic strip that was in the newspapers.
I remember that.
Wow.
And he also adapted for the comic strip in the newspapers the Brian Daley novel Han Solo at Star's End. So there was some cross fertilization going on there even before we got to this concept called the expanded universe, which really begins with Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire novel. In 1991, I think it is.
I met him a month ago at Farpoint.
Yeah, great guy. And basically, after that, everything is much more cohesive. Del Rey, Dark Horse, everybody who's a licensee is working not just with the fiction editor at Lucasfilm, but is also working with the Keeper of the Holocron. That's Leland Chee, the guy whose job it is to be basically what John Van Citters does at CBS, which is make sure that everything.
He's the keeper of the holy rings of Betazan.
Yeah. You have the data.
John, so you know, honey. I talk to John off camera like this all the time. John, we love you. And
ABC, you're the man.
Put the rings down, honey. Put the rings down. Okay.
So now I have a couple of short questions for him, Terry, that I want to fire at him in a row.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, first, who's more annoying and nitpicking, Star Wars or Star Trek fans.
I think every franchise.
No, I gave a one or the other.
No, every franchise that I've dealt with has had its share. I will say the difference obviously is with Star Trek. There's 50 years, and so there's a lot more stuff to mess up on.
I never thought about that.
A lot more episodes as well.
A lot
compared
more episodes,
to
yeah, and basically what happened with New Dawn and with continuity as I was leading up to is that they decided that with the new movies coming out that they wanted to declare that basically the basic document would be the 6 movies and the Clone Wars series and the Rebels series, and that they would start from A New Dawn, and anything that came out after New Dawn in terms of novels or role-playing games or comics,
really?
Anything would be canon.
Wow.
And it's not that the stuff before was ignored. They were drawing ideas all the time that showed up in the movies. It's just it wasn't really designed that way to always feed back and forth. It was more often the case that, because of the time frame being different in producing movies and comics and movies and novels, it was more often the case that we would have to adjust things over here because something happened in a TV show, and not the other way around. What changed with A New Dawn is they created a body called the Lucasfilm Story Group, which exists in addition to the staffers that I already talked about. And they've got somebody at the table there who knows what's going on in all of the movies, all of the TV shows, all of the novels, everything. So
he's sitting there with a big Excel spreadsheet, isn't he?
Well, there's a bunch of people, and so I can say that. We talked about New Dawn being a prequel to Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I knew everything that was going to happen in that series because I had talked with the executive producers and read the story Bible and everything in terms of how it related to my characters. We planted some things in the novel that didn't get revealed until several weeks into the series. It's entirely possible that characters from the fiction that are out there will show up on the screen sometime.
Well, that's cool.
And so it's part of this evolution that's been going on with tie-in fiction. It used to, let's remember that, tie-in fiction has gone back to the old days of radio shows. I mean, They were doing comic books and novels based on Lone Ranger and everybody else.
And at the end of every episode, there was a reset button.
Yeah, and this stuff was always supposed to be disposable. I mean, it was the licensed merchandise was, the novel was just as important to the creator of the series as another T-shirt or something. I mean, it didn't mean anything. One of the things that I collect is really oddball, novelizations. I've got all the Happy Days novels. There are actually Happy Days novels.
What? Wait, what?
Yeah, and one of the things I say is, Richie Cunningham gets engaged in the first novel, but no one would have expected that character to, the woman he's engaged to for just the length of that novel, to ever be referred to on the TV series. Now it could happen. I mean, now it's now that we're in this intermediate age where you've got
everything crossovers everything else.
Over. Oh yeah, and the fact that the internet is there and the fans are there to kind of curate this massive information that's out there. I mean, I gotta say, it was so much easier, approaching Star Trek 48 years in than it would have been if I had tried to approach it 10 years earlier.
Right. Well, a lot of that changed as well because they decided, CBS, of course, and Simon & Schuster decided to do something similar, especially when although some of the books connected, some of them didn't. Some of them had, but with Destiny.
It started with Destiny, yeah.
With the Destiny trilogy, everything kind of really gelled from that point on.
Definitely. And although, again, as we've said about Star Wars, they announced that the earlier books have not been discarded. They're being used for, ideas and inspiration. And they're pulling corporation names forward and planets forward and things forward all the time. And they were reserved the right, I'm sure, to make a movie about anything that they've done in the past. In the Star Trek case, Takedown, which is, of course, the most recent novel and the one that I wrote immediately after I wrote New Dawn, Takedown has a reference to an incident that happened in one of the Deep Space Nine novels, I think 2002. So that goes back before Destiny even. And does that automatically deem everything that happened in that novel as part of the current canon? I don't know, but
I think it pretty much gels. I mean, I've read it. I loved Takedown, which is why I couldn't wait to talk to you. But I would say that it gels, and most people would believe that. And of course, Nick, who's read all the DS9 novels, I think you would probably agree too, hon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Sorry.
I'm trying to remember the name of the book that it referred back to. But anyway, yeah, it's been a while.
My curiosity, was Chuck in any of the Happy Days books?
No, Chuck is long gone, and you'd really have to be of a certain age to know who Chuck was too.
Yeah, right. Or to remember Fonzie's blue cotton jacket.
Yeah, which he had to wear because the network wouldn't allow him to be in a leather jacket unless he was sitting on his motorcycle. That was
season 1,
the first year before they realized what they had. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that was surreal. But yeah, Takedown again. Because Absent Enemies was so much fun. I approached Margaret Clark with this notion for this novel, which would pit Riker and Picard against each other, sort of playing off this whole admiral versus captain kind of thing dynamic. And of course, it's not one of those brother against brother things like you'd see in the comics where suddenly we are enemies. But I did come up with a scenario that put them on opposite sides of a problem.
It was so good.
Terry's been raving about this book. I haven't had a chance to read it yet because
for weeks.
I think John. Let's tell John the truth. The reason why I am like the world, and I'm self-admitted, I'm the world's most ridiculously picky Riker fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I am very, very, very picky. Like I said, picky about how he and that character in particular is written. Even Troy to some degree. And so when I read Absent Enemies and thought, wow, okay, this guy. Now, mind you, in my brain,
she compared how much she liked your book to the works of James Swallow.
That's very true. I did.
Well, James and I talked actually before I did while I was writing Takedown. He and I talked for about an hour about the book that he's got coming out. So we made sure the books interacted.
Yeah, James has been on our show several times. He's one of our favorite people, just because he's I think
he's the
committable. Yeah, he's committable. He's committable.
But, he's somebody going back and forth too, because I think he's doing some Rebel stories or something for young adult for Europe. I think I'm not sure,
Mike.
But yeah, that's
very cool.
Mike, you need to get Swallow on.
All right,
now
I will.
Okay, now you say you're a parent, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Viewing order: 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, or 1 through 6 in a row.
Yeah, I can't even remember how it happened. I probably would have gone 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. I know there's a lot of people that say. I know there's a lot of people saying 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6, or even 4, 5, 2, 3, 6. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of people who are saying 4, 5, 2, 3, 6.
Yeah,
and
I could do without one.
Yeah, I think a lot of people.
Or even to put one in 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6 is kind of interesting because since. Well, this is always the trick when you're writing a prequel.
Right.
Is if you're writing a prequel before people know if people already know what has happened. In the case of New Dawn, the Rebels novel, Rebels had not come out yet, so there was nothing for me to worry about in terms of people already know the destination. And so I was I have to say most of the other Star Wars books that I've done were set in earlier time periods quite distant from the movies, so I wasn't in danger of running up too close to anything and having the fun taken out of it by the mystery being gone. But even then, Kenobi. Obviously, we know what happens to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and
I like your idea that you said though that it's a Western. That's with as many times, and I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I was when I was younger, but I'll be honest with you. I think that 1, 2, and 3 kind of really dampened a lot of that for me, particularly 1. I'm one of the few people that really I enjoyed 2 a lot.
Yeah,
I really did, just because I love Christopher Lee.
The Kenobi novel takes place immediately after the end of Episode 3. It's
okay.
He's dropping the baby off, and and it is his first month of figuring out, oh my God, I'm in a desert. How am I going to live here? And the novel, it was actually a chance creatively that we were taking, because there are no space battles, there are no lightsaber fights. It is really modeled a lot off of the old movie Shane, where there's the old gunfighter who comes to town and he doesn't want to go back to what he was. And, of course, in Obi-Wan's case, he's got a reason that he can't act like a Jedi. And 90% of this novel is told through the eyes of other people. It's told through the eyes of the locals on Tatooine, including a Tusken Raider chieftain who sees this guy and wonder what the heck is he doing out here. And so it's a Western. It's really a Western romance, to tell you the truth. And I have to say, of all the books that I've written, it's probably the one that's people have the most attachment to of my prose books, up until now. But to flip it on to the other side, I've probably gotten better reviews on Takedown than anything I've ever done. So I'm really I'm delighted that I was able to, certainly after writing a novel immediately before it, come at it fresh. And I had so much fun writing Takedown. I gotta say, it was. I had the map out. I photocopied the pages from the Star Trek Atlas, the Star Charts book, and put them all on a big poster, because I wanted to make sure that the ships could actually get to the places where I wanted them to go, and it should be fairly watertight as far as that's concerned. There are still, I've got a dumb mistake or 5 in there. I've been publishing for 25 years almost, and I have never sent anything out that didn't have something screwy with it somewhere. It's just, it's not.
Well, I don't think it's possible not.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's some of the reasons, some of the errors that I'll have. The explanations are either very mundane or very goofy. For example, I refer to the Battle of Wolf 357 instead of 359. Do I know about the Battle of Wolf 359? Oh my gosh, I do. I saw it when it was on, when it was first on. But I was in the middle of a proofreading pass through New Dawn, where we were writing about a compound, Baradium 357.
Okay.
And it was on my brain, and I am just not good with. I can make sure that I don't screw up, blasters versus phasers. I won't mess that up, but. Certain little things I will space on, and that was one I did.
Nick, you have another question?
I do. Now, something else you've written for, and I want to get your take on something first. When it was announced that Iron Man was going to be a movie, a lot of people said, "Oh, you've got a B-level character." I never thought growing up, because I was, it's funny, the people that know me now, because my love of Batman is just so
very much
so deep, and Black Canary and all of that. I'm Batman. But I was a Marvel guy, with the exception of Batman. And I always put Captain America way up there.
Oh, yeah.
And the kids I went to school with, that all the comic book guys, we all loved Iron Man, but yet people considered him a B-level. Why is that? Do you think it's where he went to?
It was because of his sales.
Okay.
Yeah, I as I mentioned, I worked for years for Comics Buyer's Guide and also Comics Retailer Magazine. So I still run a website called Comicron, COMICHRON.com, where I've got all the sales figures archived going all the way back, as far as they exist. And really, Iron Man was not an A-level sales performer until, well, they did a thing where they gave the character to Jim Lee for 1 year in the late 90s. Then it was in the top 10, but that was the first time it had ever been in the top 10.
Wow.
And then I ended up writing the book for a year in 2003.
I was going to say is you wrote a really instrumental, the whole Secretary of Defense thing.
Yeah, I wrote the Secretary of Defense thing, and some of my characters actually turned up in the movie, which is really cool. But
and the iconic pose from issue 76's cover.
Yeah, and that's in fact it was the cover illustration for, I think, issue 75. It was Jon Favreau posting that as his background on his MySpace page. Tells you how long ago this was. That caused Adi Grainov, who was our cover artist, to get in touch with him, and he hired Adi to do the armor design for the movies. Isn't that cool? Although it was one of those mixed blessing or mixed feelings kind of things for me, because the reason that I didn't continue on the book was because they were looking at the movie coming out probably earlier than it did, like 2 years or 3 years earlier than it did, and they needed to get me off the book so that they could get Warren Ellis on the book because he was a big name and I was just me. So it was because of that I ended up going over to Star Wars.
Oh wow!
Oh, interesting.
So of course the fun thing now is I am getting my first my name on my first Marvel project in a long time, because all of my comics that I did for Dark Horse are now being reprinted by Marvel. So in June, the first Knights of the Old Republic comics collection comes out in one of those big Marvel Epic collections. So
very, very cool.
Now, you having written comics, who for writing comics, because you wrote Crimson Dynamo as well.
Yeah.
Who inspired you as was Frank Miller or the usual suspects, or was there somebody else?
There's quite a few people. Carl Barks, who did the Uncle Scrooge and Donald Duck comics when I was a kid. He's a master storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually Carl Barks that it was a mutual love of Carl Barks's work that actually, as I understand it, helped connect Roy Thomas and George Lucas in the 1970s.
Oh, wow.
To do the first Star Wars comics at Marvel. I was a big reader of Chris Claremont and the X-Men comics. Probably the science fiction comic book that I love the most, that had the most to do with my Knights of the Old Republic series, was Jim Starlin, who everybody knows from Thanos. Jim Starlin did a book called Dreadstar, and Dreadstar ran for about 10 years. It was a really fun book. Other creators, Peter David, Peter David, who of course our Star Trek fans will know from many Star Trek books.
Many Star Trek stuff.
Well, I first knew him as a writer of the Spider-Man comics at Marvel, and of course then later on he would do Trek as well. And Hulk and everything else, and of course, then later on, I would be one of Peter's editors because he did a column for Comics Buyer's Guide every week, for almost 20 years. So it's a small world.
I've called Peter David the Harlan Ellison of comic books.
Yeah, it's that's
so many ways.
Well, and this is another small world thing, because Harlan was one of the first people to encourage me to try to write fiction, because Harlan was friends with Maggie Thompson, or still is friends with Maggie Thompson, to whom Takedown is dedicated, by the way.
That is very true.
Maggie was the longtime editor of Comics Buyer's Guide. She's the sort of the Martha Washington of comics fandom. And I was in the office one day. Harlan would call us to tell us jokes that he had come up with. He was
Harlan Ellison?
Yeah, because he was good friends with Maggie, and he would always be trying out jokes jokes for Robin Williams or whoever else in Hollywood that he knew, and he would call us with his jokes, and we would all get on the phone and we would listen. But no,
Was your head spinning from that?
That is so awesome. Yeah, of course it is.
He was a reader of Comics Buyer's Guide, and I had written, I guess it was in 1998, a big long end of year essay that was kind of fun, and the phone rang, and he says, Miller, this is Harlan. I just want to let you know, kid, I think you're a good writer. You need to hang this whole journalism thing and write novels yourself. And I was like, okay,
wow,
yeah, and it was, and actually the second part to this story was that I spent about a year getting my nerve up. I wrote a short story. I had Maggie take it out to him, and I didn't think anything would happen because he hasn't edited stories in years. But then the phone rang at my office, and this was kind of funny because my wife was due to give birth in 3 days, and I was on deadline, and I was a little bit stressed. But he called at like noon and said, "Kid, I'm about to read your story. I'll call you back." And so there I was in the office for the next 5 hours, and he would call back about every hour, saying, "Okay, this thing you did on page 2, kid, I like this. This is a very good word. I like the way you chose that word. But this thing over here, I don't understand why you did that."
My God!
I was by about 4 o'clock, which was when he gave up on the story because I started to get into email and other sorts of technical things that he didn't want to mess with. And he was gracious to do the thing at all. I'm so happy that he was willing to do it. Basically, by that point, I was just about hiding under my desk because I had never had anybody read my fiction before and really offer any kind of thoughts or opinions on it. And
wow.
And he said,
holy
you
crap!
may.
Can you guys imagine your first fic being read by Harlan Ellison?
And
oh
he
my
said,
God!
That's like going on stage and having the first person to see you do a stand-up act being like Andy Kaufman.
Oh my God!
You know what I mean?
But my first comic book was for Marvel. I mean, I've had this sort of thing where I guess I just swing for the fences or just. I try to. I don't do this the right way. I don't.
You do, but you do it your way.
Yeah, well, awesome. Everybody always asks, how do you do these things? Do you and I say, you work your way up. You do this and that and the other thing. But it is true though that Harlan was right. He says you have many years ahead of you. Work on your craft. You'll get there. And if you work on your craft, and indeed, it was about 10 years after that before I wrote my first full length novel. So, but after that, I was like, wow, I don't know what I'm going to do next.
Wow, that's so cool.
That's amazing.
I got to tell you, we have our own by osmosis Harlan Ellison story. we go to the Star Trek Las Vegas every year, and Harlan was there last year, which was unbelievable, and it was everything you would hope it would be when he was up on stage. I like it when he pulls punches and holds back. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like that happened.
Yeah, but Terry planted the seed in somebody's ear.
All I wanted from him was a soundbite. I just wanted a soundbite because he has that beautiful kind of cranky, wonderful, gravelly voice and mentality, right?
Yeah.
And a running gag on this show is that, well, see, I'm talking about him again, Terry. I'm violating 3 restraining orders from Harlan Ellison.
Kind of are, yeah.
But Terry got somebody to ask a question to which Harlan Ellison said, "Stay off my lawn."
Yeah, get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Isn't it awesome?
I gotta say, it's one of those things. I don't tell the story to name drop. It's just so weird.
That is so cool.
That it worked out that way,
awesome.
and it is. Obviously we're a source. Everybody's story is a combination of all the people that they meet and all the people that influence them in their lives and the teachers and everybody else. Yeah, Maggie Thompson really, was my mentor for 15 years there at Comics Buyer's Guide, and she's still a good friend and a neighbor.
You talk about her the way
she just had.
Sorry, you sound when you're talking about her the way some of our other guests and friends of the show talk about Marco Palmieri and Margaret Clark.
Yeah, and it just she and Don Thompson, her late husband, had all of these people that they knew in their world. And so I guess if I got any, advantage from being in the job that I was in, it was that, I knew people who had been in fandom and had made careers of science fiction. Yeah, Maggie's mother was one of the first female science fiction authors in the 1940s, writing under pen names. Betsy Curtis, and she's been working on a collection of her work to try to get that out there. So it's one of those things where. Sometimes life takes you where you need to be, and you meet the people that you need to meet at the right time, and so again, I was blessed by having her help, and also. Certainly Harlan, wonderful that he would give a kid that amount of time.
Awesome. Who shot first?
I saw the movie in 1977. That was the version that I paid to see. So in the version that I paid to see, it was Hod that shot first.
Yeah, the answer. All right. It's the only answer.
But
no.
If I ever have to do anything touching on that scene, I am a good soldier and I will reflect whatever is.
Well, we're not blaming you there.
This is one of those things. I just enjoy getting to play in the sandbox, and I try not to leave a mess for the next person who comes along. So it's I try to use the characters as they would want them to be used.
All right.
Question point of view. Have you met Neil Gaiman?
Yeah, I met him back 1999, I guess it was. This actually is the same month. It was the week after my son had been born, because I went up to Small Press Expo, and so that was. That was fun. That was before he was so big that nobody could even get into the same room with him. That was part of that big gathering at SPX Maryland years and years ago.
Now, wow. Terry, now I love Titan. Mike loves Titan, but you're a crew member of Titan.
Pretty much. I would hope.
Go ahead, because I know you have questions about Absolute.
I'll have to look at the crew list. Because
actually,
all three of us have been canonized in Star Trek literature.
How many times have you died, Nick?
I died once. Thank you.
See,
I came back in a prequel, and I also survived as a red shirt in Dave Mack's Deep Space Nine novel Warpath. So it was Dayton that killed me. But if I'm gonna die, I died at the hands of the proper enemy.
I did not, however.
I wish they wouldn't do that, because I don't want to accidentally kill somebody.
Oh, no, I was told from the beginning I was dying.
Yeah,
Nope.
I was told from the beginning, well, actually, no, I wasn't. I got this evil laugh from Dayton Ward.
Yeah.
It's what it was.
No, I was a red shirt with Kirk on a planet where we were fighting Romulans. Do you think I ever thought I had a chance?
No, that's cool.
I ended up on the original Defiant, if that tells you anything about my fate.
Oh, yeah.
And then we had a contest. I have to tell you this. We had a contest on the show because it was never said, it was left up to the fans to decide during the insanity that followed when they shifted how Terry died. So we had a contest, and we had people wrote short stories of how Lieutenant Commander Scholl died on the Defiant. And wasn't the winner that you fell down an elevator shaft?
No, I think it was more or less that I ended up slipping and falling in the bathtub, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they were, you would think that she would be
It was like all of this insanity is going on after the Tholian web, and I slip and fall in the bathtub.
But my favorite was you weren't even paying attention. You went to get in the elevator and just fell.
Yeah.
To your death.
Yeah, I had written that she went all psychotic and
Yeah, yours was
murdered
exciting,
half the
at
crew.
least, yeah.
Let's see. I was in one of Dayton's novels. I was on the Enterprise bridge and I put out a fire. I saved the ship. So yeah.
Well, that's because you are the man.
Well,
I'm going to talk to Mr. Miller about Takedown and Titan. And all right. So I read somewhere, it might have even been in your author's notes or your acknowledgments, where you had You actually asked to write Riker?
Yeah. I was given the option of which crew to write when we were doing the ebook, of the next gen characters, I was probably most fond of him. He and it's not just because we both have the same beard.
Although I do approve.
Well, I think that when the expression they use on the TV tropes page is that the series grows the beard as of the late second season, third season, or whenever it is. This is the opposite of jumping the shark. It's when a series comes into its own, is when it grows the beard, and that's Riker is kind of the trope namer of that. When the moment where he is confronted with Locutus and realizes, I know he's my friend. I've got to fire. This is what I've got to do. That's kind of when I was sold in terms of okay, yeah, this is somebody who will do what he has to do. When he is pushed to it. And so, I think I certainly enjoyed all of his storylines. The other characters too. I have to say the one disappointment that came along was when I was at I did talk with and I've never said this in an interview, so here we go. In my earliest conversations with Ed Schlesinger and with Margaret, I had really, really wanted to do a Moriarty story, and I did not know that, but they did. They knew that they had Light Fantastic cooking at the time, and so I couldn't go there. And so the one reason that you're seeing the book that we've got is because I didn't pursue that. But you might well notice that there are elements in Takedown that could well have been involved in a Moriarty style story.
Absolutely.
It wasn't exactly going to be like that. It's not. I don't want anybody to think that Takedown is the way that it is because I didn't do a Moriarty story. It really did kind of come really more from the notion of, hey, you know what? I want to do a thing where I've got Riker in one ship, Picard in another ship, and they're competing in a specific situation, and they've got to solve a mystery at the same time, and so that's what we've got. I was just noting on Facebook today that this month is the 25th anniversary of the Hunt for Red October, the movie coming out, and there's a bit of a Hunt for Red October feel to what's going on in Takedown, because we've. Old. Yeah, it's well, I was in college. I was like,
I was serving overseas in the Army.
Yeah, and I wasn't even a college freshman. I was a senior at that point. But it was definitely there should be that sort of naval adventure feel though to Takedown. I realized only after I completed the novel that they don't set foot on a planet anywhere in the book.
Nope,
it is all in space.
It's all in space. It's all in ships. It's all intrigue, and we are not going to give away spoilers. If you have not yet read Takedown, please do so. It's available through all of your favorite booksellers, of course, but it really does pit. I was very much worried, to be honest with you, John. I was very worried that this was like the first book that came out after the fall, after Absent Enemies, where I was really going to be looking at, are they going to do the stupid thing that they tend to do with Riker's character, and that is promote him and then pull the rug out from underneath him.
Yeah, that wasn't my assignment at all.
And I was very glad. That is the only spoiler I will give, is at least he still has the pips at the end of this book. Yeah, I wasn't sure it was going to stay that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm going to be able to kill anybody.
But I'll tell you, throughout the whole book, I was telling everybody, it's edge of your seat stuff, which is great fodder. It was great to see how you pit Riker, who I consider to be the tactician, versus Picard being the diplomat, but not necessarily. He's not a bad tactician at all, right? Two of these great tacticians against each other, and how are they going to how is it all going to resolve? It was fantastic.
And there's multiple layers to it, which I think if you read the book a second time, you may notice the places where they're also sort of subtly helping each other out. So,
Which really lends itself to the end of the book, I will say, and I'm not telling anybody what it is.
Now, Terry, I have a question for you to answer in front of the author, if you will.
Oh, God.
You know who my favorite novel-verse character is?
Yes.
Am I going to be happy with her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Very little to worry about.
Sarah, I am in love with Christine Vale. I have been since her very first appearance, and it gets deeper with every book.
To be honest with you, he's with Esri most of the time, hon.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
ShamWow, Terry ShamWow.
I'm not giving away anything that isn't in the back cover of the book.
Right.
That Riker is on Aventine for much of this book. In one sense, it's an equalizer between him and Enterprise because Aventine doesn't have the firepower of Enterprise, but it's so much faster. So that's. That was a decision, and there's other reasons why he does that, which people will find out as they get into the book.
Exactly.
But
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say what's fun about this book is it does involve Enterprise, and it's got a path through the book, and Aventine has a path through the book, and also we have a Romulan adversary who has his path through the book. And
Terry told me about him. I need to talk to you.
Okay.
My first tattoo ever was the Romulan symbol.
Oh yeah,
I understand that you Larry Find a Romulan, basically.
It's once you read the whole book, I think you'll get what we were going for, what we were trying to do with him. It is what was complicated about this book was there are so many destinations in it, and so many intertwining plot lines going on, but yet it all wound up once I pulled the ends of the rope, it seemed to have tightened up really nicely. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. You did a great job with that. And Nick, you really do have to read it because I think I think that you will appreciate. I think you'll really appreciate it. His ultimate end. I think you will,
and I think you'll get why I chose a character like this.
Yes.
So yeah, I'll leave it there.
Now I will say I'm glad when Destiny first came out, I was so happy to see Captain Esri Dax.
Yeah.
I loved what happened, and her growth through the novels has been amazing. And I was one that was saying, well, I would love to see an Aventine series, but I'm actually happier now that the Aventine is kind of a floater.
Yeah.
And the growth that Esri has been allowed to have in the novels is just amazing.
Yeah, I really appreciated getting a chance to add something to her story, since we knew where she was during the fall and what she had gone through. It struck me that the worst thing in the world she would want to see happen in this book, which is more or less the next adventure, would be something which is going to get her in trouble with the Federation, and this is sort of the situation that we have here. You always hit your characters with the things that they're most afraid of seeing. So yeah, I enjoyed writing her character and fleshing out the Aventine cast a bit. I know when it was initially announced, the suggestion was that it was an Aventine novel, and it was always the case that it was going to be Aventine and Aventine plus Enterprise, and that's why it has the Next Generation banner on it as opposed to anything else.
Right. I agree. I think I'm just very, very excited that you and this is coming as the highest compliment I can pay, and only James Swallow has suffered this to date, and that is you nail Riker's character.
Well, thank you very much. That's exactly what I want to hear. I mean, I know when somebody new comes in, it takes a while to get your sea legs or space legs or whatever. I know that Absent Enemies was one where I know I had a couple of scenes where some people were going, okay, what is this guy's approach going to be with these characters? I'm really kind of, I'm kind of the guy who says, hang in there, you'll see where it's going. And I'm glad that everybody hung in there.
Well, and I think now, as far as Next Generation, Riker's probably my favorite character from that series. And the things that makes him so hard when I read him, and if Terry's saying that she's placing you with your characterizations of him up there with James Swallow, you really, that's like, yeah, that's big. But plus, she's all about the beard.
I can't deny it.
But the thing is that having served now for almost 30 years in the Army, there's a lot that rings true about Riker in his style of leadership, and that's why one of my top 5 TNG episodes is Lower Decks, because we get to see that other side of him, that real executive officer, kind of doing the day-to-day paperwork stuff and dealing with the younger. And I think Frakes is so
this is why
recognizable.
This is why he was a realistic choice to make an admiral, and I know they did it, for the fall, and I wasn't involved in that, so I'm not privy to all the reasons why they decided to make that move. I do think it's very interesting though, because it's something where very clearly Picard has learned the lesson of James T. Kirk. He's not going to give up the captain's chair to become an admiral.
Don't get me started on that.
Yeah, he's not going to become an admiral. He knows his
he knows his role. He knows his role is there.
Yeah. Captaining a starship is his first best destiny. But Riker, we never actually really saw him captaining other than when he was helming Enterprise a few times in the series. So it's a little easier for readers to, visualize him in a different role. And so and of course the other thing with it always, and I touched on this in Absent Enemies, and then I hit it again a lot harder in Takedown. Was sort of this, tension that always exists between, the captain level and below and the admiral's level and above, that you see played out all through Star Trek, all through, Next Generation. Usually when somebody of authority is on the bridge above the captain, things are not going to go well. There's some sort of an adversarial relationship there. I've mentioned this a few times before, but I think that it's notable that one of the dynamics in that West End board game for Star Trek years ago was that if there was a Federation commissioner on your ship, then the Klingon player got to decide what happened to your ship. It was a fun little dynamic, and what it meant was that basically, every time one of these, mucky mucks would be on board the ship, they would invariably, be pulling the Enterprise in the wrong direction.
So if you can imagine this, Nick, Riker, newly minted admiral, steps onto the Aventine.
Yeah.
And you can imagine where Ezri, who's already been through hell and back and through the fall, right?
Well, from Destiny on.
Right,
Yeah.
right? So she's dealing with her own crap, and now she's got Will Riker, who she kind of knows, but now he's got those bars, and it's perfect. It's pitch perfect.
And one of the things that Terry and I,
thank you. That's what I was going.
It was great.
One of the things that the three of us on the show have said we love is the fact that on Deep Space Nine, Admiral Ross was none of those negative qualities.
No, we loved
He wasn't the crazy admiral.
He was a solid, good leader. Listened to his subject matter experts. Took advice.
By that time, we're so far into the end of the series, or it's so far into Star Trek by that point. By that point, they were playing against type. They knew that they were subverting the trope, so to speak.
Yeah, they had started a little bit when they had softened Nechayev up a little bit.
Yeah. So it was a novel. Having a competent official was a novel thing by that point.
Yes. Sorry, the Rangers just scored again.
Well, Nick, before we get to our questions,
yes,
we always do this. We always do this to our
virgin guests,
virgin author guests. Before that, I do want to make a small, quick announcement that there is a small contest involved with this show. I have a fresh copy, a beautifully unblemished copy of Takedown, written by our guest, John Jackson Miller, that will be given away to the person who can discern first my favorite scene from Absent Enemies.
Ooh, from Absent Enemies.
Oh, very good.
So
Nice.
read Absent Enemies, see if you can figure out what scene made me squee with delight.
Now, and this is probably something in one of our past shows because we reviewed the book when we read
I don't
it.
know if I talked about the scene or not. I might not have.
And sir, I have to tell you, another positive that you're getting, Terry never threatened to throw your book across the room.
Oh, good. Hey,
No, you don't understand.
I've thrown books of mine across the room before, so that's good.
I've gotten phone calls from her or a text message. I'm so pissed at, I will not say the author's name, I just threw the book across the living room and the dogs ran.
Yeah, I've done that. I still get the tangible books just so I can do that. My iPad is, now mind you, I could never do that with Absent Enemies. I wouldn't anyway, but my iPad is staying right here.
So that you
She'll throw a book across the room, but God forbid you put a crease in the spine.
Not allowed. I do not crease my books. So again, a brand new copy of Takedown by John Jackson Miller. If you can email us at hosts@gntshow.com with the answer of what was Terry's favorite scene in Absent Enemies, the ebook by John Jackson Miller.
Well, that's
okay,
great.
cool.
I can't guess, but that's good.
I can't tell you because that would just blow everything.
There you go.
We can do it
after the show. Okay, so Nick, you've got
Yes.
Okay.
We have what we call our Lipton questions. If you've seen Inside the Actor's Studio, he has, and these are our set prepared questions that we ask those that have written, not just in the Star Trek universe. We tend to mix them when somebody hasn't. But since you have written in the Star Trek, and they're not all Star Trek, but we start. What is your favorite Star Trek series?
Oh, probably Next Gen. Not because there's anything wrong with anything else. It's just that was the one where I got to see it from the start and watch it as it was developing. And by the time DS9 comes along, I certainly saw all of DS9. But by that point, I'm actually in my day job, and my day job was almost always a night job as well, because I would be burning the midnight oil, and so I was so often having to time shift that I didn't have the experience that I had with Next Gen of being there right at 5 p.m. when the episode would show up on the local independent station. That would or whatever it happened to be. I was moving around from college to college at the time, and so it was I would have to discover where Trek was on the dial constantly.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. Excluding human, if you could be any species in Star Trek, which species would you be?
Well, let's see. If I were a Klingon, I would have an easy time getting parking spaces. So I think
That's a good point.
Yeah, I guess that would work for me. Sure.
Right on. What if you could be any species in Star Wars? What would it be?
Thank you, Mike. I was going to do that.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, that's good.
That's good. Stop apologizing.
Well, no, that's a good one too.
There's so many more species in Star Wars.
Well, there's a character that I've written called Griff in Knights of the Old Republic, and he's sort of a little con artist, and he's the kind of creature that was the snaggletooth creature from the old Kenner action figures. He shows up.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually the famous thing about that is Kenner accidentally did a tall version of Snaggletooth before they realized they didn't have the right photograph, and so there's an action figure out there that's worth $3,000. But yeah, Griff is one of what's known as the Snivians, and the Snivians are a race that basically they take on their whole lives are performance art. So they take on on the guise of, in Griff's case, a criminal mastermind, or if you were, a military person or something else, you wouldn't be doing it to do it or to make money or for any other reason. You would be doing it in the most stylish, artistic way possible and be the best criminal mastermind ever. So yeah, I guess that's
That's cool.
Yeah, that sort of fits with my creative bent, I suppose.
God, I remember being a kid, and even like at 8 years old, I was like, "Really, Walrus Man? That's the best you have for a name for this alien?"
Yeah, they didn't know. They didn't know. They didn't know. There weren't names for a long time.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, next.
If you were given an opportunity to write an open-ended series based on one character in Star Trek, who would it be? And you can also answer for Star Wars.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, these aren't easy.
Well, Star Wars is obviously both of these things are sort of ongoing things for me though, because I'm working in the universes, so we'll see what happens.
Throw it out there. You never know.
I'll tell you the Star Wars character that I pitched my very first story was actually a Lando Calrissian story, and Lando is fun. So I could see that you could.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
well,
that I
leads
could.
to a question: was Lando introduced because they weren't sure that Harrison Ford would be around for the third movie, or for Return of the Jedi?
I seem to remember there was some rumor about that or something, and it was reported in Starlog or something. What you need. There are 3 books by Jonathan Rensler, J.W. Rensler. I think it's The Making of Star Wars, The Making of The Empire Strikes Back, and The Making of Return of the Jedi. They get into serious detail about all the behind-the-scenes machinations about that, and those are out and available. As for the Star Trek character, I don't know. I've had a lot of fun writing Riker. I think that's been fun and entertaining. Picard, I got a chance to write here for not the first time, but for any length of the story. I think either one of them would be great.
Now, can you give us Picard Spawn's full name?
That's what we call the child. Picard Spawn.
I know the Renee part, but that's about it.
Exactly. Because Terry has gone on a tangent several times about the 17 names this kid has.
Holy crap, that was...
The kid was not in my book, so I did not memorize it, so that's...
Thank you, by the way.
She hates everything about him being married, having a kid.
My deal is I try to keep the number of players as low as possible. Just because if I got a crowded story anyway, I tend not to drop a lot of additional names. So usually if I'm going to use a non-TV character, that character is going to get used. That you're going to hear that character's name a bunch of times in the book.
Cool.
Now,
right on.
Of your fellow authors, what authors' books will you run out to get when they're released?
Well, I have to say, I've been friends for a while with Christy Golden. Christy wrote for Star Trek for a while. She and I, our work is sort of dovetailed before and after each other in terms of, she did the Fate of the Jedi novels on which the Lost Tribe of the Sith was based. And of course, she now has the next Star Wars novel coming out. Not the next one, but the one after that, coming out, Dark Disciple, I think is what it's called. So yeah, I mean, I've certainly read her books. Jim Swallow's books I've definitely read. I've read everybody's to a degree. Even though this stuff is available to me digitally, I tend to go buy it anyway.
Right.
I may not actually get to read it all when I should, or as quickly as I should, or as I'd like, because I've got a to-read list or a to-read stack of books that is now onto a third overflow bookcase.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
I just don't have time.
I have to tell you, the reason I haven't gotten to your book yet is I had started reading, I was reading the Barsoom series, which I haven't read since like 1978, 79, and then I started Tarzan.
Oh, yeah. Well,
because I haven't read those in so long.
Edgar Rice Burroughs certainly takes precedence. My wife is a huge Tarzan.
I had forgotten how racist Tarzan was.
It's I've tried to get back into it. It's hard. It's turn of the century. I mean,
I was going to say I remember it though. I look at it as a product of its time.
Oh, it certainly is. It certainly is. It's one of those things where there's a bit of a culture shock going into some of those old books now.
Now, is there a genre that you haven't written or published yet, but would love to try?
I would love to try. The thing is that the things that I want to do, I'm either doing or I'm in the process of doing. I have a political thriller that I've been working on for a good long while, and that will happen at some point. A straight mystery would be fun to do at some point. I really want to write a sitcom. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's
You're welcome to give it a try to the Klingons of Long Island.
Well, I'm really I'm a TV junkie. If anybody follows me on Twitter, JJM Far Away, or on Facebook, I do it more on Facebook. I collect TV guides. It's a sad thing. It's a weird thing. But a lot of what I do for fun.
My God, you're Frank Costanza.
Yeah, I am. I'm Frank Costanza, and nobody takes a TV guide out of somebody's house like that. I can't understand it.
What'd you take my TV guide for?
Yeah, it's See, we know what we're talking about here.
Exactly.
Oh, God. That's awesome.
Other people don't know, but yeah, I do a lot of reading about the creation of some of the great TV series of the past, and the TV guides are actually fun to go back and read because you get to see these fun things about what happens with there's this new show out, Dallas. It's a soap opera. Nobody's going to watch a soap opera at night. Good grief. And they're totally wrong.
Seinfeld only signed for 4 episodes.
Well, and so that's it's always interesting to see what they were thinking at the time with this kind of stuff. And so what I will do is I'll post things. When Leonard Nimoy passed, and that was just obviously really sad. I had some stuff that I was planning on posting that I had found, for the 50th anniversary that I was going to post. The first appearance of Spock in the magazine, which was in the 1966 preview issue that they would do.
Wow.
And then the close-up box for his first appearance on Mission Impossible, which of course is, Star Trek isn't even dead in the ground yet. By the time he's already, it's not even off the air yet by the time he was making the new episodes of Mission Impossible, because he had joined the Mission Impossible cast. And so, yeah, I posted both of those images. And so, yeah, that would be kind of fun. The only thing that I haven't written that I'm not gonna write, I'm not a horror fan, and I probably will not ever do a horror book, or movie or TV show or anything like that. I did a Conan comic book a while ago. I was amazed. That was really stretching for me.
That's kind of wild.
Savage Sword?
It appeared in Savage Sword. Yeah, it appeared in Savage Sword about a year ago, and it was just an opportunity that came along, and I said, you know what, that could be fun, and they'd like, I'd like to do more at some point, but it's thing 55 on my list of things I want to do.
Well, my favorite comic book author, I get choked up just talking about her. Gail Simone.
Oh yeah, Gail. Oh yeah.
Last year I got to meet her at Baltimore Comic Con, and it was
a big highlight for him. Trust me.
Terry has seen me fanboy, but she wasn't there to see this one because Gail's work actually helped me through some really tough times. Batgirl with the PTSD has been an amazing, kind of role model. But I'm getting all the clamped. As a fellow sitcom aficionado, I was going to say say about her that she's doing the Conan Red Sonja crossover thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But as a fellow sitcom aficionado, and there's only one right answer to this.
Yeah.
The greatest sitcom in history is...
Cheers. I'm sorry. It's Cheers.
It's in my top 3, but you're wrong, sir.
No, I can explain why you're wrong, but what do you think it is? You
Dick
made
Van
it
Dyke Show.
Seinfeld. Well, Dick Van Dyke, too early.
Too early?
Yeah,
Oh my God!
No, it's not. It is true that Dick Van Dyke is the best sitcom of the '60s. It's just
and the '70s, and the '80s, and the '90s, and the '90s.
Yeah, no, I can't go there. Actually, rather than hijack the whole show on this, there's a great book that came out. I can't remember the name of the author, but it came out last year. It's called Sitcom, obviously, and what the guy does is he goes through and he takes a single episode of 20 different sitcoms through the years, and of course he starts with I Love Lucy and goes to the Phil Silvers Show and goes to Dick Van Dyke and goes to Mary Tyler Moore and single episodes of Cheers and Roseanne and everything, bringing it all the way up to the present. I mean, Community, I think, is in there. And what he does is he explains, here's all the things that were done for the first time, and what was clever about it, and how it was a reflection of the culture or not. I love Dick Van Dyke. It would be in my top 10, maybe
it's
5.
Not even in your top. Well, I was going to say not even in your top 5.
Yeah, the thing is, I would. Oh gosh,
I think the brilliance of the writing of Dick Van Dyke was they put no current stuff going on at the time.
No, that's true. That's true.
So that it would, and that was a conscious decision by Carl Reiner, so that 10 years later, if someone was watching it, it would be just as fresh.
Yeah.
As what was going on.
I think one of the problems that the series in that era suffered from is the schedules were so long back then. Yeah. They were doing 26 episode seasons, and that was even shorter than what they'd been doing it before that. These series tended to run out of gas a lot quicker.
Which Dick Van Dyke only lasted 4 years? 5 years?
No, I think it's 4 or 5. But they were always on the bubble, and so anyway, this is probably a completely different show.
No, this is what we do.
We do squirrel a lot, and I am going to tell a real quick brief story about Cheers that I think you'll actually find. I hope you find humorous. When the pilot for Cheers was filming in Los Angeles, I happened to be at the studio attending the pilot for another show. The pilot that I went to go see was horrific. Although it had, God, did it have Charles Durning in it?
Did it have Scott Baio?
No, but it was a very sad attempt.
There's a book about failed pilots. And that's one of the other things that you can find in TV guides as well, is because they would always have to air those episodes.
Right. They did air it, and it was a sweet attempt at a cute family show, but it just didn't. We knew it wouldn't go anywhere. However, as we left the pilot and we were going to, I was with my mother, by the way, because she wanted to do something Hollywood, which I thought was so cute. We were standing in line when two people joined us in line, and they were very, very much from New York, and they were like, "Oh my God, we just came out of the worst pilot ever." They were, and they were like, "Oh, really? What was it?" And they was like, "Oh, it was about this bar in Boston." Yeah. Then after that, of course, I to this day I still laugh, and every time I think of Cheers, I think those two women really hated that so much, and they thought.
In fairness to those two women, the first season out of 200 shows, Cheers came in 200th overall in the ratings.
That first episode, it was dead last. I actually had a chance to talk with George Wendt about that last month. George was at. This is me. I went to a Wizard World convention just to go see George Wendt.
Sweet.
And I had him sign my copy of The King of Beers, which is the script where he goes to work for a brewery. But yeah, I was able to tell. I was one of the people watching that first night that almost nobody watched.
I did.
And the reason that I was watching was because what few people remember, it was the lead-in for the first episode of Taxi that was when Taxi moved to NBC.
Right.
And that was the episode of Taxi where Reverend Jim dates Marsha Wallace from a show which Cheers has a lot of connective tissue to as well. Which of course was the Bob Newhart show, which is on my top 10 list and probably in my top 5.
Yeah.
Single greatest finale of any show ever.
Well, that was Newhart, but yeah.
No, Bob Newhart show I loved. What's the pilot's name?
Bill Daly.
Yeah.
Howard.
Howard.
Oh, and come on, Suzanne Plachette.
Oh yeah. No, I went to see Bob in concert when he came up to Green Bay last year. He's wonderful, and his stand-up act is the same stand-up act from 40 years ago, but it's.
Wow.
Here's why I can't agree with you about Cheers, though.
Yeah.
I hated Diane. Okay, I felt about Diane like Carla felt about Diane. Now,
well,
when
then
Rebecca
I can see it.
comes on,
Then I can see it not working for you. No, I mean, I haven't actually ranked them, but I would, my top 5 or 6 would, Cheers, certainly. Frasier is actually as good as Cheers in a lot of years.
Agreed.
It's just WKRP might be my number 1. It's a strong fighter behind Cheers. I'm going through KRP right now because I got they finally did the remastered collection with most of the music. And I have to say thumbs up on that thing. That's as good as it's going to get, I think, as a KRP collection. I'm sorry.
That's great.
No,
this
you
is
don't
awesome.
understand. This is what we do. Okay, we'll get to the next one.
We actually are known for our squirrels about talking about other things than because
this is a great time to tell you, if you ever want to come on and just talk sitcoms for an hour or two, seriously, we can do it.
We'll have you on.
That sounds good.
Now, in Star Trek, what is your starship? The USS?
Oh, I want the Bounty.
I like
That's the first for that.
That is a first.
I got it on my desk. I mean, I've got the model. I mean, that's oh yeah. This may be one of your later questions, and this is one of those things where people are just gonna. Everybody's favorite movie is 2. My favorite movie is 3, and that's really rare, I know, but I love the fact that this is where it stops being about the Federation and it starts being about the family. And it's just these characters who are going to do what they need to do to go out and
I like that.
To do what they need to do and go out and save their friend. And the Bounty is, of course, the ship that they end up with, and in whatever Navy we end up serving. And if they had decided to take the film series, with them continuing to be on the run, I wouldn't have minded that.
That's awesome.
Certainly, Next Generation begins being about the Federation and evolves into being about the family. It just takes a while longer. But yeah, I mean, I've got that one right here, and that I certainly
I like that.
That is a good one. That's a good one. All right.
Do you have a favorite adjective? Do you overuse it? And is there an adjective you loathe?
Do I have a favorite adjective? Adjective?
Yeah,
I know.
This one always trips people up, Terry.
I know, I love it.
No, I every time I get to the end of a book, I can it through a thing that sorts for word frequency, so that I stop using the same words over and over again. I have lots of glares and glowards. My characters are always just staring angrily.
That's awesome. Okay, that's exactly what I was looking for when I created this question, because a lot of our listeners are aspiring writers and may not realize they do this.
Yeah, I got a lot of my characters smirk too much. I use the word smirk too much. And this is what you do: is you can take the manuscript, get one of these online word counter programs, can it through that, and you can also find ways to shorten your manuscript, because there's always little flabby words in there. that you don't need.
Have you found Twitter to help you with tightening up your writing? Because where I work, one of the things I do is I write for our newspaper, and I have found that my writing has gotten a lot tighter because of Twitter.
I don't think that it would have. Certainly, my writing style, prose-wise, had developed long before Twitter. So that I don't think is changing much. Twitter, certainly, it's an art, trying to get everything to fit. And I didn't do it with Takedown. I did it for my last 2 Star Wars novels, where I did a countdown, a bit of trivia every day.
I was going to say, I saw your blog, and I was like, but I want that for Takedown.
Yeah, I didn't have time. It was just one of those things where there's... But that gets back to the fact that Twitter takes a long time to actually think, all of those things, I actually would sit down with an Excel file that was counting the characters so I could figure out whether I could get these comments and their links in without annoying the hell out of people with multiple different tweets. That's there. But while I didn't get to do the tweet thing, I do a thing on farawaypress.com, my website, where I do a behind-the-scenes page on everything that I've ever done. I haven't gotten to the one for Takedown yet, but then it took me 10 months to do the one for Absent Enemies. So
because I read the one for Absent Enemies and I was just glued.
Yeah,
I loved it. I loved the idea of kind of knowing the behind the scenes of how you wrote that.
It's kind of like the DVD commentary. It's kind of like the director's commentary on it. And I've got it there for every comic book I've ever written, every other thing. It's just the last few years. Well, I mean, to really do it justice, I've got to do the one still. I've got to finish the one for A New Dawn. But to do it justice, I need to go back and reread the whole book and say, oh yeah, this is where we got the idea for this.
And like you have time for that right now.
I know, right?
I do the same thing with my own blog.
Yes,
it's a good
or
idea.
The various articles that I write, or the various short stories or audio scripts that I put together. I usually go back after the fact or around the time of release and go, okay, this is how the sausage was made.
Yeah, and it's good to do it soon afterward, because otherwise you forget.
True.
And so, but no, I've got it there for everything Star Wars, Star Trek, Mass Effect, the video game I did the comics for, and also my own series Overdraft, which will be a series when I can write some more books for it. But the first one's out. But I was able to use my website to do a timeline and a glossary and various other things for that.
Cool.
Right on.
Now here's the big one.
Okay.
If in the Star Wars and in the Star Trek universes you're given the green light to kill a major canon character and it sticks,
oh God,
who do you pick? The moans always start before we get to the question mark, Terry.
This never goes well.
You would not believe some of the answers we've had.
That I actually went, wow, that would
people
work
answering
really,
out of
really
spite against me. Hi, Christine.
Yeah. Nobody's off the table.
Nobody.
But it never goes well. I mean, in Star Wars we had the experience of Chewbacca, and that Chewbacca needed to die. And
but see, you're writing it so it will work.
I don't know.
We have that.
That's not why people come to these books.
There is no try.
We're not saying that you're going to write this person who would die.
No, I know.
If you had the opportunity to do so, and it would stick.
That's what I say. My knee-jerk reaction on all of these things is always first, do no harm.
God,
I treat these franchises, even the parts nobody likes, like a national park. I try to leave it the way it was when I found it, if I could help it at all. Certainly, there are characters and things and whatever that we would like to do away with. I mean, let's get rid of Batmite from Batman. Sure, okay, that's fine.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that.
There've got to be those moments.
Aquaman from the DC universe. Just get rid of him.
Well, see, I wouldn't even go there.
I'm sorry, Terry. Is there a problem?
Yeah.
Is there a problem, Terry?
Yes.
Is there a problem? Yeah.
Shut up.
That's
the
true.
only DC character I like.
We will.
Every book is somebody's favorite. Every character is somebody's favorite. It's honest to God.
But I can have a favorite character and have them as long as the death was great and served a purpose.
Yeah, if you could do something where it served a purpose, that would be a be a different thing.
You're not going to give us a name, are you?
Well, no. If you could rewrite a different ending for James T. Kirk, that would kind of be fun.
That was one that somebody has. Yeah, we've had that.
David Mack was going to kill off Picard.
I sure wouldn't do that.
He pitched it.
What? Yeah, that's not me.
Don't make me. No, the problem is he's got a bunch of Star Wars fans who will totally get up in his craw. I'm just saying.
No, I understand what the role of tie-in books is in the scheme of things. And even if we're part of the interconnected, cross media, spectrum like I've been talking about and like is envisioned, where everything, a movie is equal to a novel, is equal to a comic book, is equal to a whatever, I still think that the reason that when I was a kid, I went to read the Star Wars and the Star Trek comics and the Star Wars and the Star Trek novels was to extend my enjoyment of the movies. And to extend my enjoyment of the TV shows when I couldn't see them. I was not necessarily looking to see anybody wreck the apple cart. I guess if it comes from anywhere, it comes from that, which is I'm trying to not tick off John and the 13-year-old with whatever I'm doing.
Well, we can't thank you enough for...
there was one more thing I was going to ask, Terry.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh, jeez. You just made me...
I'm sorry.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, we were talking about... Oh, yeah, okay. Because you write Riker so well, now you've heard Terry's absolute fangirl devotion to Riker. Mm-hmm. What is your stance on Captain Jellicoe?
I
be honest.
I like him. I like the actor.
Terry loves cocks.
Terry loves cocks.
Yeah. I mean that poor man has had to do all sorts of really he's playing the heavy in a lot of different series, so he brings with him that sense that when he comes on the bridge he's going to cause mischief and trouble here because we've seen his character from these other movies, or not his character, we've seen who he's played in these other movies. It's actually been so long since I've seen the Jellicoe episodes. It's been a good long while. So
Here was my thing. I loved from
we adore him. Just so you know,
from a service member standpoint, I loved Jellicoe because he was the most captain of any of the captains. After, of course, Ben MFing Cisco.
He's no nonsense. I mean, he's certainly got that. I can see that.
But what annoyed me to no end about that episode
was Riker.
The sniveling and whining from Riker. Oh, we got a new captain,
It's true.
It's true. He does.
It's
and
true.
to me, it pissed me off because it was so unlike pretty much anything we'd seen from Riker before. That he was, you get it, and I come at it from, you get a new commander. Hey, in the Army, every 2 years you get a new commander. Guess what happens every 2 years? Things change.
Mm-hmm.
And change is part of the whole thing. And I really, we've talked on the show, I said, my big three for my ship would be Jellicoe as captain, Kern, the Klingon, as the first officer, and Dr. Pulaski as the ship's medical officer. That would be the tightest ship in the fleet.
Yeah, I can imagine. That wouldn't be any fun at all.
No, it would be great fun. Jellicoe was a good guy.
No, I mean
he had 3 days to prepare for war.
No, I know. No, I mean it wouldn't be any fun if you were one of the crew members. You wouldn't be getting away with much. That's what I'm saying.
So soft. You know who wouldn't have reacted like that? Romulans. That's who wouldn't have reacted like that.
Yeah.
Mike, I got to give you credit. The Klingons would have killed somebody.
Well, John, we can't thank you enough for joining us on our show.
It's been a pleasure.
Just a really wonderful time. And again, to our listeners, if you want to win a copy of Takedown, don't forget to read the novella, the ebook, Absent Enemies by John Jackson Miller, and then email us at hosts@gntshow.com and decide what scene was Terry's favorite, and I'll just give you a little hint. No, it wasn't when Riker threw the chair against the door. Although I did love that. That wasn't my favorite part, which inspired something else, Nick, if you couldn't figure that out.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah. And if you want to read any of his books, of course, you can pretty much pick them up at any of your favorite booksellers. But for Star Trek, he is the author of Star Trek Titan Absent Enemies, as well as Star Trek The Next Generation Takedown. And we want to thank New York Times bestselling author John Jackson Miller for joining us.
I definitely have enjoyed it. Just to throw in a few quick plugs here.
Absolutely.
This Saturday being the March the 14th, I'm at Powers Comics in Green Bay, Wisconsin, 1 to 3. And then then March 20th through 22nd, I am at my hometown show, Mid-South Con. That's in Memphis, and I'm doing multiple panels, signing hours then as well. And then in April, I will be at Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim, and I will also be at my first Star Trek-centric show as an author, which is Shore Leave. That's in Baltimore.
Son of a...
Yeah.
See, I live in Frederick, Maryland. I live 40 minutes, and I go to shore leave every year, except that last 2 years, last year and this year, it's the same weekend
with Vegas.
as Vegas.
Yeah.
If you're not going to Vegas, go to Shore Leave and meet these wonderful authors, including
Shore
John
Leave was
Jackson
my
Miller.
first convention. It was my first convention because of David Mack.
Oh, yeah. So
He invited me.
Oh, very good. So yes, I'll get my chance to see a few people there, just not the people that went to Vegas. But yeah, and
cool.
Of course, like I said, people can find my stuff on JJM Faraway on Twitter, and then of course Faraway Press on the web. I also have a shop page there. If people can't find their books anyplace, I do sign copies from the shop page as well. So thanks very much, everybody.
No, we really appreciate it. And to all of our listeners who listen to this, if you're listening to this on our website, just look down below. All of those links are going to be in the show notes, so you can just click on them there. But
you know who else
remind yourself, right-click on them and open a new tab first, because you'll annoy yourself.
You know who
what
else
was
is
that,
going
Nick?
to be at Shore Leave? John Barrowman.
I know, honey. I know, it's okay.
No, you don't.
No,
if anybody could make me switch teams, it would be Barrowman.
You didn't hear that, John.
And you're originally from Memphis?
That's right. Yeah, I live in Wisconsin, and I've been up here for about 20 years. But I
you know
go back.
Jerry Lawler?
I've met Jerry Lawler a few times.
Son of a bitch. You know this guy.
I know.
No,
now you know I wanted to talk to him.
Yeah. Well, I'm just old.
You're only 2 years older than me.
Well, I know.
And you're younger than Terry.
But no, Jerry, we would see wrestling every Saturday morning on local TV.
Lance Russell, second greatest announcer ever.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to end up either talking more about sitcoms or wrestling or comic
you have
books
a definite open invitation to come back and talk about sitcoms for as long as we want. Say, don't first get serious. We'll do that.
That sounds terrific.
Awesome.
We can all rank our top tens and then debate it.
All right. Well, I enjoyed it.
Nick, you want to wrap
Thank you very much.
Oops, sorry, Mike.
Oh, I just wanted to thank him personally for taking the time to sit down with us.
And Mike, thank you for all the behind-the-scenes work to get this together.
My pleasure.
So that once again, this wraps up another G&T supplemental log. We've been hitting it great. Last time Heather Hutzel, this time John Jackson Miller, and next time it's we're not saying. You got to be surprised, but she's just singing Klingon. So Mike,
Kapla.
Terry,
live long and prosper.
Mr. Miller,
see you, everybody,
and Joe Lontrue, bitches.
Music for the G&T show is provided by Warp 11, Andrew Allen, Grethor, and 5 Year Mission. This has been a Busy Little Beaver production.